Going on, everybody? Welcome to a Take 5 segment, real quick, here on 5 Reasons Sports. Brian Fonseca checking in. I'm going to be previewing for the channel the upcoming Trilogy bout between Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin, which I'm very excited about as a boxing guy, MMA guy, and also a basketball guy. But on here, we're going to be talking about this fight. It's the third time these guys are facing off. Canelo Alvarez is an undisputed super middleweight champion who lost earlier this year. We're going to get to that in a second. This is the third time these guys are facing off. In 2017 was the first time Gennady Golovkin should have won that fight in the eyes of many, myself included, but it was ruled a draw. And the second time around in 2018, about a year later, Canelo Alvarez got a narrow majority decision victory. For the casuals, that means that one judge ruled it a draw, but the other two overruled that judge by giving the win to Canelo Alvarez. And many people thought, myself included, that Gennady Golovkin should have earned a draw, if not win outright. So we have two controversial decisions there in favor of Canelo Alvarez. Kind of a theme throughout his career, but we don't have enough time to get into all of that today. But what I will say is that this fight is coming up. It is huge. It is massive. And Canelo Alvarez is the heavy favorite. Even though he is coming off a loss from May of this year against Russian light heavyweight Dmitry Bivol, the WBA champion at light heavyweight. Canelo Alvarez moved up in weight from super middleweight to light heavyweight and actually did have a championship at light heavyweight previously. He moved up, got outboxed, got dominated, lost 8 or 9 rounds or so if you watch that fight. Perhaps, there's an argument for more, but it doesn't matter. He lost a unanimous decision to Dmitry Bivol earlier this year in May, and we're going to see how he responds from that because he's only lost twice in his career. The first was to Floyd Mayweather, and that was many years ago when Canelo Alvarez wasn't necessarily what he is now. Gennady Golovkin has one loss in his career to Canelo Alvarez, and many people think that he did not deserve to lose that fight. I would argue he had a better case of losing to Danny Jacobs or Sergey Derevianchenko as opposed to Canelo Alvarez. That's neither here nor there. But this fight in particular, here's what to watch for. There's going to be a lot of betting action depending on where you bet. Obviously, you know Better Edge. Shout out to them and Prize Picks, who are sponsors of this channel. Depending on where you go, there's going to be a lot of action on knockdowns. Neither of these two guys have been knocked down in their career. Neither of them. Hasn't happened. Gennady Golovkin turned pro in 2006. This is going to be his 44th or 45th pro fight, something along those lines. Canelo Alvarez has almost 20 more pro fights than he does. He turned pro despite being 8 years younger in 2005 in Mexico and was fighting a lot as a teenager and then was able to progress throughout his career. So keep that in mind because even though Gennady Golovkin is 40 years old, has an 8-year gap ahead of Canelo Alvarez, he has almost 20 fewer pro fights, and he's also coming off a win because he beat Murata earlier this year, middleweight champion. Gennady Golovkin's still middleweight champion at this point of his career. So even though he's older, he's still somebody who's very effective and arguably the best middleweight in the world even right now. The favorite bet, the thing to really keep track of in terms of like how this fight can progress. The main thing is that Canelo Alvarez probably wins this fight by decision. That's probably what's going to happen. Perhaps unanimous. He's a wide betting favorite wherever you look. He is most likely going to win this fight. How Gennady Golovkin can win this fight is he would have to have a Dmitry Bivol-like performance against Canelo Alvarez earlier this year. And more often than not, Canelo Alvarez tends to get at least 1 or 2 suspect scorecards in his favor. It happened against Miguel Cotto, against Erislandy Lara. It happened against even Floyd Mayweather, where CJ Ross had it 114 somehow. Austin Trout should have gotten more love from the judges. Shouldn't have won that fight, but should have gotten more love. The 2 Gennady Golovkin fights, etc. So it just tends to happen with Canelo Alvarez where you need to do more than just beat him. You almost have to knock him out. But in terms of knocking him out, neither guy has been dropped in their career. So that's not necessarily something to count on, but it can happen because anything can happen in boxing. And one last note is that on Prize Picks, when you're looking at some of the props, punches landed. One of them is for Gennady Golovkin is about 200 over under. He's hit Canelo Alvarez 200 or more times in each of their previous 2 fights. Canelo Alvarez did it once. The second time, they should both go over that if it's an action fight again. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the fight.